Against this background, the Governing Council decided the following. First, we will continue to conduct net asset purchases under the Pandemic Emergency Purchase Programme with a total envelope of 1,800 billion euros until at least the end of March 22, and in any case, until the Governing Council judges that the coronavirus crisis phase is over.
New Taproot activation method proposed, speedy trial. I like it. I like it. I sort of, I said this last night. I was sort of jaded by the whole lot true versus lot false. I sort of tuned out, especially like literally like last week, the week before. The amount of like notifications I was getting from the mailing list was like, what the hell is everybody talking about? Like I just had to like tune out. But David Harding posted on the Bitcoin Dev mailing list, and he basically rehashed a conversation that was had on the Taproot activation IRC channel, and Russell O'Connor proposed a modification to the let's see what happens activation proposal, and then put forth the speedy trial, which is the straight quick flag day activation that would be miner activated, and if it doesn't, we could recalibrate from there. Is that correct?
I mean, it's not what?
I thought it was a straight count. You're like, no, that's wrong.
Well, flag day is like that would be the wrong word, I think. I mean, it's basically like a faster version of lot equals false, right? It's just we give it to miners to signal. If they hit 90% signaling, which isn't hard and fast, like if they hit 90% saying they support it within 3 months, then we activate 6 months after that. Flag day kind of implies we update the software and the software just says on this block we're updating.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, no, I like this.
Which was also proposed as a separate thing. So this is nice because it's just like before we get into any kind of argument, and we've talked about this in the past, like setting up precedents, right? Maybe the best way to upgrade with soft forks going forward is you do this, you jump in there with a 3-month signaling period. And then we can think about more complicated things if the miners don't signal after those 3 months, right? But if they do signal, then we don't have to even discuss everything else. We can just fucking do it, right?
Yeah, no, I love this. Shout out to Russell O'Connor for putting this forward. And it seems like that this is garnering a lot of support, even in the developer community.
I went to visit a secret vault in the Swiss mountains where a company stores its customers' bitcoins. Many millions of bitcoin are stored there. It was the secret headquarters of the Swiss army during the Cold War. The way it's built is quite interesting. There's basically a hollow in the granite mountain, and in that hollow they built 3 buildings that are 3 stories tall. So you walk through a tunnel through the mountain and then you end up in these buildings, and these buildings are connected by tunnels as well. Once you step into the bunker, you're in this lobby area where they have to take your fingerprints, they photograph you, they take your ID document. Then you enter a glass cylinder, which they call a man trap. It's made of bulletproof glass. You walk through a passageway, you go through these steel revolving doors, and then you're confronted with these 2 very thick steel doors that weigh 4 tons each. I was told that these doors are designed to survive a nuclear blast. So now we're walking towards the part of the complex that contains all the Cold War era map rooms that's left untouched. This room is an unoccupied private suite. No customer has moved in yet, but when they do move in, they would be allowed to customize and do whatever they like in terms of security measures with this blank space.
Hey, John. Okay. I heard your NFT conversation right before this, but Bitcoin, separate crypto conversation. Very interesting, though. Bitcoin is climbing again today, though, as investors' appetite for growth in tech stocks returns. And we've got some new stimulus adding to its appeal as an inflation hedge. Bitcoin is up for the 7th straight day this week. That's the longest winning streak of the year so far. It's above 57,000 today, getting closer to that all-time high of 58,000 hit last month. In the past year, Bitcoin's strongest bull case has really been the idea that it's a hedge against inflation. That use case promoted by Paul Tudor Jones and some other billionaire investors. Adding to fears of inflation this week, we had stimulus passed in the U.S. The European Central Bank today saying it would accelerate its bond buying program. And despite some muted CPI data this week, some economists do worry that more stimulus could overheat the economy, and a weaker U.S. dollar could make Bitcoin, which isn't tied to a central bank, more attractive. The other big bull case, institutional investors getting in. This week, we had Goldman Sachs president and COO saying that the bank is exploring how to meet rising Bitcoin demand from its customers while still staying on the right side of regulation. Another tailwind, President Biden's pick for SEC, Gary Gensler, was approved by a Senate committee and cleared a key hurdle for his confirmation. And despite his comments about cracking down on money laundering in crypto, he's really seen as a forward-thinking regulator about the asset. He did teach a class about blockchain at MIT. But despite being called a safe haven asset, Bitcoin is still a speculative and volatile investment. It crashed to $43,000 just a couple weeks ago. But those high growth trades are back in favor this week after that steep sell-off.
Bitcoin, et cetera. It definitely helps. But I think that what we're just watching is we are seeing kind of the old boys club of Wall Street and the financial system being broken down. And again, anyone in the world can now go on to an open, decentralized protocol with an internet connection, and they can play the same game. There's a level playing field. And so what I think you're seeing is that the power in the masses is much bigger than anyone ever kind of anticipated. When you start to look at things in the traditional world, GameStop, et cetera, I think that's just a macro environment thing, right? We've got a Federal Reserve that's doing all kinds of crazy stuff that is just pumping liquidity into a market. And so naturally, I think people are just running around with extra money sloshing in the system, and they're finding it in stocks. They're doing real estate, precious metals, Bitcoin, crypto. I mean, just everything is seems to be going up against the dollar. And so I think that that's just more macro environment situation.